Welcome back, everybody, to Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Live. Sorry for no show yesterday, but we are back today. And yes, cleanly shaven boss baby is here for the week. I will be bringing the beard back because everyone has been cooking me on all social media saying, Jake, you need the beard. And you're not wrong. When you have a chubby face, you got a little neck chub there, you got a bald head, you're not skinny, you have no tan, you need a beard. Anyway, smash that thumbs up on this video. Comment below, as we always read your comments throughout the entire offseason. We appreciate your support. Hit that subscribe button and follow your boy at Jake Brown Live on all social media. And scan that to become a Mets Daily Insider member for just $5 a month. Lots of outpouring on the Brandon Nimmo, Marcus Semien trade, still both with their press conferences on Tuesday. A lot to react to and catch up with on today's show. We appreciate you joining us. First off, I have people uttering Brandon Nimmo in the same breath as David Wright, and there has to be some kind of reality check here with Brandon Nimmo. Incredible person, incredible guy, great off the field, always had a smile on his face. No one is going to deny that about Brandon Nimmo, but what you can deny is uttering him and David Wright in the same breath. David Wright was light years better than Brandon Nimmo has ever been in his career. Brandon Nimmo's first half of his career was plagued by injuries and just numbers that did not impress that much. He was an on-base guy, walked a lot. His 400 on base was the number that impressed, but didn't hit a lot of homers, didn't drive a lot of guys in, didn't steal a lot of bases. Brandon Nimmo was a guy who could walk a lot and ran a first base on walks with a great attitude. So I don't want to hear the comparisons of Brandon Nimmo to David Wright. David Wright gets Hall of Fame votes despite his career being cut at least 7 years short due to his, career-ending back injury. Brandon Nimmo has not even made an all-star team. He'll never win a Gold Glove. He is what he is. He's a good player who is now starting to hit homers and drive and runs, batting in the middle of the order, who has found a power bat as his on-base has dropped to 325. So what Brandon Nimmo has become, is a power bat, and maybe it works out great in Texas. But I also think you got to look at Texas and how that might have hurt Marcus Semien the last few years, because everyone is writing Marcus Semien off before he even got here, saying, look how bad of a hitter he was in 2024, 2025, and he's 35. There's no way this is going to work. Without talking about the fact that he played in one of the biggest pitcher ballparks in baseball. Texas isn't the almighty, Yankee Stadium to hit a ball out of the ballpark in. So he also dealt with a foot injury that ended his season at the end of August. So his numbers, you have to remember, he has a month less of what he normally does, and that is play all 162, which he talked about in the presser. This is a guy that plays every day. So everyone's diving into how bad of a year he had in 2025 without mentioning the fact that he missed the final 5 to 6 weeks of the season. So Marcus Semien, if he plays that final month and say he doesn't get hurt, you're going to look at his numbers, and they're going to be pretty much the same as Brandon Nimmo. And that's where I kind of laugh. It's like, all right, let's not be fair to Marcus Semien and write him off. And then when you average out the numbers and say Marcus Semien didn't get hurt, his numbers are almost identical to Nimmo. But because he's 35, he's being written off completely. So I just don't want to hear that Marcus Semien is this nobody when Brandon Nimmo's career doesn't sniff Marcus Semien. And not to mention the defense you're bringing in, and most importantly, the leadership. And you can just tell from the way he spoke to the media on Tuesday about what kind of leader he is. I know it may sound dumb and maybe it's like, who cares? But, addressing each media member question by name. And listen, I've met Mark Healy. I have no issues with him. Nice guy. Always been nice to me. Obviously, he's getting a lot of heat on Twitter because he's glazing Brandon Nimmo to a level I've never seen before. And his question in the presser was a little bit insane about how popular Met Nimmo was and having to replace the popularity. It was a little borderline unprofessional in the question. But the reality is his career doesn't sniff Brandon Nimmo, so he doesn't need to answer those questions. He's a World Series champion. He's viewed as a captain and a leader. And I think that's what this clubhouse has missed the most. They miss it. They don't have it in Jeff McNeil. They don't have it in Pete Alonso. They don't have it with Juan Soto. But Juan Soto's numbers are his leadership, and his winning is his leadership. So Lindor is really the de facto captain, and I think maybe now he gets the C on his chest. But Semien is that captain-like figure walking in here. And I always point back to this when we talk about leadership and Nimmo being here a while. When those team meetings were brought up by the combination of Francisco Lindor and JD Martinez in 2024, Brandon Nimmo didn't say a word. The media asked him, did you say anything? Did you speak up? And he said no. For the longest tenured Met and a guy who wants to retire a Met, and he talked about seeing his number in the rafters at Citi Field one day. In a team meeting when the team is at rock bottom, 11 games under 500 for Jose, Candelito, OMG, Jose Iglesias saved the season, he said nothing. And that is how I view Nimmo. I don't view him as a leader. I view him as a nice guy, a good player, but not an integral piece to this team winning. And they never did with him here. And everyone's like, it wasn't his fault. Are we going to nitpick all 10 years Brandon Nimmo was here and pick the different things that were wrong? Or are we going to factor in that he was part of that team? We can nitpick every player on the roster from those teams all day till we're blue in the face. But he was a part of those teams. And if he wants to be this guy that goes in the rafters with the Mets, well, he's going to be held to a higher regard than the guys that are here 1 year and out the next. So I don't want to hear that he wasn't part of it, because he was. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. He was one of the 25, now 26 guys in that clubhouse. So, yeah, part of it was Brandon Nimmo's fault for the team failing. And obviously, a lot of it falls on leadership as well. But he's part of it. So I don't want to hear it. It wasn't him. It wasn't him. Why? Because you like him and he smiled every day? We got to get real on this, guys. The Mets brought in a veteran, a leader, and yeah, his bat might fall off. It might not be great. But they have a huge clubhouse presence who plays Gold Glove defense, just won a Gold Glove, and whose numbers, if he didn't get hurt in August, would have been the same as Brandon Nimmo, whose first half of his career was missed due to injuries. So I think people got to put respect on Marcus Semien's name. Brandon Nimmo, in his presser, basically talking about, some call it run prevention, kind of a line hinting at what David Stern said at what they need. And he talked about his conversation with the Mets and Stearns, and that he would play less and have to DH more potentially. And, he thought the Rangers wanted him. They came in, they welcomed him with open arms. They approached the Mets about the trade. Guys, the Mets couldn't say no in this trade. For a team to eat the entirety of Brandon Nimmo's contract, which, by the way, Grok on X tweets me what the similarity of Nimmo, what he would have got on the open market today. 2 years, $30 million. So the Mets got rid of that entire contract, only having to cover $5 million, and a team was able to take it, and the Mets got themselves a leader in the clubhouse for the next couple of years. And I think that is huge. That is what this team missed so badly. And I talked about it all year. Zero chemistry, zero leadership. Well, they got a big leader, a World Series champion, an all-star, and a Gold Glover at second base. They also got a Gold Glover and an all-star at shortstop. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. The Mets should also look into bringing another all-star, and that's Byron Buxton. I think the Twins now in a position where they need money. They need to shed money. They need to get young. They are rebuilding. They are struggling with ownership and paying the bills. Byron Buxton, I think, is going to be available. And I know at the All-Star break he talked about, I have a no trade, I'm a Twin for life, but the Twins are in no position to win. They're not trying to win. And if I'm the Twins, I'm calling the Mets. Because the Mets have the almighty dollar. The Twins do not. So the Mets can give you top prospects like a Jet Williams. And the Mets could go out there and say, hey, we'll cover the entire contract, which is not bad, $15 million a year for 3 years, $45 million. We will give you top prospects. If you want 2 years of Kodai Senga, they might not want. We have him as well. If you want an expiring contract that comes off the books, and Jeff McNeil we'll walk him to the airport in Minnesota. So I think the Mets should really be engaging with the Twins right now and go get Byron Buxton. Because you're in a position where, hey, Pablo Lopez and his contract could also be coming off the books in a trade. And the Mets could easily say to the Twins, hey, give us Buxton and Pablo Lopez. We'll give you Senga, Jet Williams, and maybe a Jonathan and another lower-level prospect. I think the Twins will listen. And I know Byron Buxton's a guy who's dealt with injuries, but so did Brandon Nimmo for a large part of his career. I don't think Byron Buxton should be written off because he's dealt with some injuries, because Byron Buxton, even missing some games in 2025, still hit 35 homers. So you want to talk about replacing Brandon Nimmo? Hey, let's go get a great outfielder and a guy who hits more homers and just better than Brandon Nimmo. You will almost laugh at being angry at losing Brandon Nimmo if the Mets get Buxton. Because if you have Byron Buxton, you're opening up a position for Carson Bench. Maybe it's Tyrone Taylor on opening day or someone else, but it's probably Benj. Benj in left, Buxton in center, Soto in right. Enjoy the ride. And I think Benj is the plan here. It does feel like it. And you got to remember, too, Benj is a Stearns guy. Stearns drafted Benj in his first draft as Mets GM in 2024, and he's quickly risen through the ranks, and he is a Stearns guy. So Stearns would rather go down with his guys, and I respect that. You know, he's moving on from the past. It might make fans ruffled. It might make him angry, and Alonso's maybe next, and McNeil, I pray, is traded. But he wants to win with his guys. So he went out and got a Semien. That's his veteran guy. He might go start Carson Bench. That's the guy he drafted. He might go trade for a Byron Buxton. He signed Juan Soto along with Steve Cohen's checkbook, obviously. So it's going to be fascinating, but the Twins and Mets should engage, assuming the Twins will move on from him. Get me Byron Buxton. Now, first off, I'd sign Cody Bellinger, but if Bellinger, goes by the wayside or returns to the Yankees, if Kyle Tucker, goes elsewhere, I think the next man up is Buxton. I have no interest in Harrison Bader. If you tell a Met fan your starting outfield is going to be Benj, Bader, Soto, I won't be happy. I won't be happy. Your infield is, we'll see what happens with Alonso, but second, third, and short are pretty much set. I don't think you're going to go for Bregman. You have Beatty. Now you got to figure out what happens with Vientos, Acuna, Mauricio. We're going to talk about that. I think it's a lock. Vientos will be traded. It feels like Acuna would also be traded, and maybe they keep Ronnie, and it's Ronnie and Beatty playing at third. But, it feels like you have to go out and get a bopper in the outfield. And that's why fans, I think, are also overreacting because they have not replaced Nimmo yet. Now, Nimmo's replacement might be Benj, but they still need the center field replacement. So either center fielder or a left fielder is still on the Mets' radar. So before you lose your mind about Nimmo, we have to see how they replace that position exactly. And it's November 26th. It's still early. Hardly anyone has signed. Now, the Mets have signed a couple of guys to minor league deals, and I know fans hate seeing these because they say, Stingy Stearns, what are you doing with these bums? Well, you need to fill out the system somehow. The Mets have agreed to minor league contracts with Robert Stock, Nick Birdie, and Anderson Severino, and also outfielder Jose Ramos. Birdie and Stock spent 2025 with the Red Sox organization. Birdie tossed 5 1/3 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts over 4 appearances. Wasn't able to stay healthy. He's previously had 2 Tommy John surgeries. He's had a bunch of injuries. But we'll see if he stays healthy. Guy could be a decent piece. Stock has reinvented himself a little bit. He tweeted about it, adding a knuckle curveball that he just tested out. That seems to be working. So maybe he ends up being a reliever at some point for the Mets. 85 innings with a 3.92 ERA. Had a great rookie season in 2018, but hasn't done much in the majors since. Severino pitched 6 times for the White Sox in 2022. He's been in the Mexican League the past 2 years. He's been pitching in the Dominican League. Ramos, an outfielder, has not played in the majors. He's been in the Dodgers system for 7 years. So we'll see where any of those go. Again, those are guys where a couple of guys get hurt. Maybe they get a chance. But Stock, Birdie, Severino pitchers, Ramos hitter added to the Mets organization. We'll get back to reading your comments and questions, guys, on tomorrow's show. So keep leaving them below. Keep smashing that thumbs up. Keep subscribing. We'll actually do that on Friday because we will not have a show tomorrow. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Let's go Knicks. I'm flying to Charlotte, flying home today. Assuming no, fingers crossed, no flight delays. I'll be going to Knicks Hornets tonight. Thanksgiving with the family in Carolina tomorrow. And then we'll be back with a show on Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. It's been great this week to be in New York. Went to the Rangers game the other night. Got to hang out with my guy, Brian Boyle, who called the game. We hung out after the game. Love Boyle. Saw my guy Johnny Lazarus as well. So always great being in New York City. We'll be back in the city on Monday, and we'll talk to you Friday on Mets Daily. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Have a blessed Thanksgiving, everybody. We appreciate your support. We're thankful for your support of Mets Daily. Again, subscribe, comment, thumbs up, Jake Brown Live, all social, and become a Mets Daily Insider member. It's a good gift for the Christmas holiday season. $5 a month. Pretty cheap one, too, for a stocking stuffer. We'll talk to you Friday. Happy Thanksgiving.